And I'll share my screen. Okay, again, I've been saying this a lot, but we're going to be creating, we're going to be working with Reddit today in class in the next couple of weeks. And in order to follow along with what we're doing in class, you're going to need a Reddit account. Right now, I am opened up to the week 10, topic 10 folder in our GitHub repository. And you'll need to, again, there's two links down here that you'll need to do. The first one, something that you've all done before on all sorts of different websites, just creating an account. If you already have a Reddit account, you'll need a new one for this class. The requirement is just that it contains somewhere the word bots inside of it, and you probably don't want your name inside of it. And then we'll go over this link here in just a minute. While you all are doing that, though, we'll just highlight where we're going over the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks until after Thanksgiving. Your next project 4 has been posted. And the idea of this project is you're going to be creating Reddit bots. So computer programs that are posting things to Reddit, reading information from Reddit, upvoting things, downvoting things, and specifically, since we have, I guess the election is very soon, so it's not going to be too related to election stuff, but you'll have to pick your favorite or least favorite politician and make posts about them. And it's okay if Mickey Mouse is your favorite politician or your least favorite. But just somehow we'll be writing things that are going to the internet and making political messages out there. We're going over the details about this assignment again over the next 2 to 3 weeks. You'll have until Sunday after Thanksgiving break to work on this assignment. My recommendation, though, is trying to complete it before Thanksgiving, and we'll definitely have covered everything that you need for that by then. So that's just timeline for us. And we'll go over, lots of both technical things and ethical legal issues here with creating bots. But we'll do that in due time. So back again to the topic 10 folder, having clicked this link, created your Reddit account. Again, for the purposes of this class, should contain the word bot in it somehow, but really no other restrictions. And then we're gonna click on this link down here after you're logged in with your new account on Firefox, and we'll see what this looks like, this link down here. A lot of people think about bots on social media as being like pure evil, the worst thing in the world. Like, why would anybody want to do this? But we'll see that Reddit and actually all social media web pages, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these different companies, they all have interfaces for people to make bots that interact with their platforms. And so even though we're working with Reddit right now for the purposes of this assignment, anything that we do it's very easy to extend it to any of these other social media platforms. Reddit is just nice because you can kind of silo things off and we won't affect the rest of Reddit by working in our own little forum. Okay, so if you click this link right here, it'll take you to, here we go, a web page that looks something like this. You can see right now I'm logged in as CS40bot up here. That is my bot account for this class. And there's this section called authorized applications. These are all of the programs that are allowed to interact with this account right here. I've already created one of these applications for myself, so that's why it lists example bot right here. Reddit by default has the Reddit mobile app installed on everybody's account, so you probably have something like this looking in this section. But then if you scroll all the way down, there's this developed applications. These are the applications that you are working on for your particular projects with this account. And if you press this button at the bottom, create another app, then this is how you'll be able to create the things that you'll need for writing a bot on Reddit. In this case, what you're going to need is a script app. A script is just a general purpose program that's running from Python, interacting with a web page. The name, description, about URL, redirect URL, none of those things actually matter. So just fill it with whatever you want it to be. And then you'll press this create app button. And as soon as you do that, it will give you a box up here that has a bunch of like random gibberishy sort of passwordish things. Your account is going to have both a username and a password, the things that humans use, but then it will have some randomly generated secret information that will be things that your bot will use. These web apps and installed apps, those are things like if you had a Reddit front end on your phone, like the official Reddit one, or I think there's other ones as well. Those are for developing that sort of thing. A script is specifically for creating a program that's associated with one particular account. Jackson.
Should we actually create one right now?
You should actually create one right now because in 5 minutes, I'm going to be going into Python and doing all the stuff with my account information. And so if you want to be able to follow along with what I'm doing, then you'll need to go through and do this.
And then also for the about URL, you need to have a real URL in there for it to work.
If it's insisting on a real URL, just use the class URL. So while you're all doing this, so back over here on the topic 10 folder, there's a couple of files that we'll be using today. In particular, these 3 files right here. The pra.ini.example, the pralogin.py, and we may or may not get to this one today, but definitely by Wednesday, pra-posting. The focus of today and the first part of our discussion of Reddit is going to be in reading information off of Reddit, getting the information from there that we want, and then after we're able to read things, then we'll go on to posting information. So these are the main 2 files that we'll start with today. The pra.ini.example file, this is going to be a very important file. I'm going to switch over to VS Code here and open up my pra.ini.example. Here, this is what the file looks like. This file is going to contain all of your actual password information, all the stuff that you've been typing into Reddit or that Reddit is automatically generating for you. For everybody, it's going to have this top bot section. This bottom thing is user agent is going to be CS40 for everybody. And then your password and username, those are the human entered things, human created things that you created on Reddit for the password and the username. And the client secret and the client ID, client secret, client ID, those are the big random strings that Reddit generated for you. And if we come back over here, this is the client ID. And when you first create this box, there'll be another thing below here saying the secret and what the secret is. You'll notice, so all those things you'll want to copy over into your pra.ini. You'll notice that I'm being a little bit careful about not actually showing my pra.ini file. I have it open right here, and I'm not going to accidentally click on it, hopefully, because that contains all my password information and credentials. And similarly over here on the Reddit webpage, if I were to click this edit button, it would pop up all of my secret information, all of my passwords. And I don't want to display that. One of the things that you're going to be, one of the purposes of this assignment is to get you in the habit of sort of starting to protect your passwords a little bit more. And so I'm not going to be demonstrating bad behavior by showing you my passwords, and you should do your best not to show your passwords to other people. Yes.
What do we copy and paste that secret thing into?
So this here is your secret ID that will go into pra.ini.example. Here, you put it inside of quotation marks like this. And so right click, copy over here, client ID, right, and paste that there. The client ID is not secret. That's like a username. So it's okay for me to show that to you. Similarly, the username down here looks something like CS40-bot for me. Sorry, these no quotation marks around there, I believe. But the client secrets and the password, those are the secret things that will be different for everybody's account. This one, again, is the thing that you generated, the thing that you typed into Reddit. This is the thing that Reddit gave you. And it's going to be a long, gibberish, random looking thing like this that's maybe 2 or 3 times longer than this one. Yes.
Where do we find this again?
Question is, where do you find this information? And the answer is currently, so if you go to the topic 10 webpage, there's two links down here. The top one is where you actually create your account. The bottom one is where you create your bot. If you click on that bottom link, then it will take you to this page. At the top, it looks like this. And so it starts with the authorized applications. You scroll down past the authorized applications. Those are things that other people developed, down to the developed applications. You create your app down here. And then under developed applications, there will be all that information for you. Right now, again, this one right here is your client ID. Somewhere down here on your page after you create it, it will say client secret. If it's not saying client secret, if it's not telling you the secret with a big long gibberish thing, you probably have an edit button. You would click that edit button and then it will show you the big long secrets. But again, I'm not going to do that because we want to be in the habit of protecting our passwords. Yes.
So I have an option to create an application, but I actually develop application section.
So if you don't have a developed applications, if you haven't actually created an application, then this section won't exist yet. After you create one, then the information will be there. Say it again.
So when we're creating an application, then we'll get that script thing.
After you press this button right here, then this box up here will appear. So just this information doesn't matter at all.
So we can put anything in there.
Anything you want. And then here's what appears. And so that is the secret that you put as your client secret. That is your client ID up here. This page is on the topic 10 folder down here. This bottom link right here takes you to the page for developing your applications. And again, you'll need the downloading the pra.ini.example and putting the information in the INI file like this. The question is quotes or no quotes. Here is the documentation for the pra.ini file. And there's no quotes to the right of the equal sign. There cannot be a space between the thing on the left and the thing on the right. So here are more examples down here of just client ID equals random gibberish, no quotation marks, and no spaces anywhere.
I'm assuming the password is our password of the Reddit account.
Username is your username of the Reddit account. Password is your password of the Reddit account. Both of these things are the things that you physically typed into Reddit. The client underscore ID and the client underscore secret are the random gibberish things that Reddit created for you when you pressed that create app button. Okay, this pra.ini.example file, in order for it to, where we're going to go on to next is this pra_login.py file. pra_login is going to connect to pra.ini in order to extract your secret information, your login credentials, all this information we call the login credentials for your account. And where pra_login is going to look in a file called pra.ini. So the example I gave you is called pra.ini.example, but you'll have to rename that to just pra.ini. That is where this file over here is going to look. Just delete the dot example at the end of the file name. Okay, we're going to run this here in a second and see what things will look like if you've gotten everything working correctly. Jackson?
Or to download, because we don't, when pra for us is underlined in yellow, do we have to download anything? Or import pra?
So yes, this pra library over here, this is something that is not built into Python. And so you'll have to do pip install pra in order to get it. And again, this library is an official thing that Reddit has developed to support people making bots for the Reddit platform. It's not like we're breaking any rules right here. We're doing what Reddit is encouraging us to do by making bots for their platform. And every social media platform has their own libraries for doing this and all the different programming languages.
I forgot exactly how to download it.
So this will look different for everybody's computer, but pip3 install pra, something like that is the standard command. There are two ways of logging in with this pra library. Every documentation thing that you see will have documentation that looks like this, where the credential information is actually contained inside of the Python file. But this you should never do. Never include credentials in Python files. This is understood that when you're reading tutorials, they want to have their tutorial just in a single page, and so without having to create multiple files, and so they include login credentials directly inside of that single page. But this is a file that is going to get shared around with many other people. In particular, it'll get shared with me, and you don't want me seeing your login credentials. It'll also end up getting posted to GitHub, and then anybody in the world will have access to your login credentials if you post it to GitHub. GitHub also has a bot API, and there are bots that scan GitHub for anytime somebody posts password information. And so if you do post a password to any moderately popular web page like Reddit, then within seconds your account will be compromised and people will be using logging in with your password. Reddit, that's not too big of a deal because there's no credit card information associated with it. But there's things like cloud service providers. So Amazon has a very large cloud service providing system, AWS, and many, many famous incidents of people posting their password to AWS and people instantly downloading that password and just mining Bitcoin for a couple hours, racking up $100 million bills. And then the company who posted the password is just responsible for paying that, for helping everybody else's Bitcoin mining. So you never include, you always have this separate file somehow that stores your password information. This file never gets uploaded to GitHub, never gets shared with anybody, but the Python files never contain secrets inside of them. And instead they will load the pra.ini. So yeah, again, two methods of logging in. This method one here, you never do for any reason whatsoever. Method two just looks like this. And actually you don't even need this line right here because we specified the user agent over here, user agent. So that's not even necessary. All you have to do, this bot right here, this bot corresponds to the thing inside of square brackets over here, this bot up at the top. And so this line right here is all that you actually need in order to log yourself into Reddit. If your Prada.ini file is working correctly, you have successfully put in all of your password information, and you have successfully put it in the right spot, and you have renamed the file so it is Prada.ini without the .example at it. Then if you save this file and come down here and run that file, Python 3 pra pra_login.py, then it's going to print out some texts of some various Python or some various Reddit posts. Down here, just this for loop will print out some information. So if you get a bunch of information printed out, then you don't have to understand what that information is, but it means that you are correct, that everything is working the way it should be. If you're not getting this information printed out, then you should be getting an error message somehow trying to explain what's going on. I'm going to walk through some of those error messages here in a second, but there's a good time to stop and see if anybody has questions at this point. Question is, what's the difference between the client ID and the client secret? Over here, this thing up here is your client ID. The thing that is close to your ID, user ID, is your client ID, and your client secret is this thing labeled secret down here. Good question. Any other questions?
What was the command you ran? Was it just running the file?
All I did was run this pra login file down here. I just typed it in manually instead of pressing the triangle button.
What is the word bot doing in the product Reddit?
Question is, on our login line right here, line 23, there's this word bot, and the question is, what is this bot doing? The answer is that over here in Prada.ini, that connects to this bot section right here. It turns out that it's often very useful to have multiple bots in a single file, and so we could have another section with, so here is bot, here is another bot, and this has different information down here. Just other things. And then in order to specify which one of these two accounts I want to log in with, I specify what's inside square brackets when I come over here. So instead of saying bot here, if I wanted to log in with the other one, I would say another bot. So if you copy down the Prada.ini.example file, then all you have to do is leave this the same, leave it as bot, and you don't really have to worry about it after that. This coming assignment, though, one of the extra credit things that you'll be able to do on this assignment, there are many, many possible extra credits. I think there's something like 30 points of extra credit possible on this coming assignment. But one of the extra credit possibilities is having an army of bots instead of just a single bot doing posts for you and coordinating them together to do things. And so the way you would do that is you would have multiple bots in your Prada.ini file like this. And then in your Python code, you would specify which bot is doing whichever task by right there.
Manually create like 5 different Reddit bot accounts, and then they just put different names.
Yeah, so each one of these things right here corresponds to a different Reddit account that you manually created. Okay, I'm going to show some of the common errors down here in a second, but any questions before I do that? Okay, the most common error is related to working directory issues. So where pra looks for in your, for this pra.ini file, where Python tries to find your pra.ini file is in your current working directory. So right now, if I type pwd, I can get my current working directory right here, the topic 10 Python Reddit bots folder, and there's a pra.ini file inside of it. right there. If I change my working directory, so cd ... I'll change my working directory, pwd down here. Now this is a different folder, and inside of this folder, there is no pra.ini file. If I come up here and press the triangle button, let's see what happens. We get these error message. So this config parser, no section error. It's a very confusing error message, this no section error. Here we go. You provided the name of pra.ini configuration, which does not exist. So this it's looking for the pra.ini file, but it can't find it. So if you get an error like this, the most important thing to check is that you're actually that your working directory contains this pra.ini file. I'm going to change my working directory again back to the previous location like that, rerun this code. And there we go. Now it's once again working. If I were to change this text inside a bot right here to be, I don't know, something like my username, something like that, that is incorrect. This is incorrect right here. It needs to be, this doesn't match that what's inside of square brackets over here. It doesn't match. And now, so if I rerun this again, we actually get this same error message, no section error, no section CS40 bot. So this no section error, the most common cause for that, since I've already given you the base code, is that your pra.ini is just in the wrong spot or named incorrectly. But another possible cause is that what's inside this string right here doesn't match what's inside of one of these square brackets. Anybody encountering different errors? Right, what's your say?
OAuth exception.
If you see anything about OAuth, so the OAuth is the protocol that Python uses to do the login information. That means that your username, password information is just incorrect. Somehow you copy and pasted the information incorrectly. Common causes of that are you have decided to put things inside of quotation marks. That is incorrect. No quotation marks anywhere in this file. Everything inside of this file is case sensitive, so both your username and password need to be inside of the same case that you, so upper and lower case, whatever you used when you were creating your account. Another common cause of copying and pasting the passwords incorrectly is here. You can see there's a dash in this secret right here. If I just double click on here, the double click does not go past the dash, just goes up to the dash and not including this other stuff. You have to make sure that you get all of that other stuff and don't accidentally get some like stray spaces or other characters inside of there. Anybody getting different errors besides the OAuth or the no section error?
A separate question for the user agent. I always specify CS40. If we're creating multiple, is that?
Yeah, so the question is, what exactly is this user agent? And this is something that we didn't talk too much about when web scraping, but every time your web browser connects to a web page, it tells the web page the name of your web browser. So we're using Firefox, and so we tell the web page that we're using Firefox when we connect. If you're using Chrome, then it tells the web page you're using Chrome when you connect. The reason for that is the web page might choose to do things just slightly different depending on whether the person is using Firefox or Chrome. Inside of the requests library, so requests is how Python connects to the internet and downloads web pages. The pra library internally uses the requests library. So when we call this this login function right here, internally, we're literally going to that web page where that form is with the username and password information, and the pra library is sort of like typing that in for us and sending a web request. And anytime you send one of these web requests, you have to tell the web page what is the name of the browser that you're connecting from. And when you're web scraping, it is polite to somehow give an informative name. The user agent is the name of the web browser that you're using. And so this doesn't actually matter down here. These four things up here do matter. This one down here does not matter. You can put in whatever gibberish you want, and things will work the same. Internally, Reddit has, like, they collect various statistics, and so everybody using the CS40 user agent would be sort of grouped together in one bunch, and we would all be sort of like in a single tab in their dashboard somewhere. And so it's just moderately polite to have all of our user agents be CS40, so that if I don't know, they can just monitor our activity together. But if you were to change that to something else, then it doesn't matter at all. But there's no need to change it to anything else. Did that answer your question, Jackson?
It does.
Is there any other, sorry.
Go
Is
ahead.
there any other reason we getting without auth exception other than the password?
The OAuth exception is only because of the credentials being incorrect somehow. So if you're still getting the OAuth exception, then I'll need to sit down one-on-one and figure out what's going on there. Good question. Any other questions at this point? Okay. So let's head back over to the pra.login, and yeah, so again, I sort of explained this note right here out loud. You must always use this method 2 in this class, never use the method 1. If you look at the documentation though, this method of putting the credentials directly in the code is what people will use in examples. But for real world things, you always use this method 2. And here's 2 examples of famous security breaches that happened. SolarWinds was a very major security breach, happened, I guess, about 2 years ago now. I think estimated damages in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And it was literally because somebody uploaded their password to GitHub. And it caused all sorts of damage for all sorts of companies. So on all of the assignments related to this class, and I'll be emphasizing this again and again throughout this class, whenever we have an assignment that's going to be due, if in any way I see your password on GitHub, either it's included in your Python file or you upload your pra.ini file to GitHub, you will receive negative points on the assignment. So that's not like you would have gotten a 10 out of 10 and you get -5, so 5 out of 10. That's like you get negative 10 out of 10 on the assignment. That is how bad this practice is. That if you upload your passwords to GitHub, it would be better for you, like, just not to have done the assignment at all. Because like the person who uploaded their passwords to GitHub for the SolarWinds, like it would have been better for them just to not exist for that year of working at that company, because they caused hundreds of billions of dollars of damage, not only to the company they were employed at, but to the other companies that depended on them. So to really drive this point home, that like you should be protecting your passwords with your life, you should be legitimately scared. I feel legitimately scared every time I upload a project to GitHub that contains passwords in there somehow. Like you should, if you don't have fear like going through the back of your mind, like I might be pressing the wrong button right now, then you are doing things wrong. And so the purpose of this is to help instill that fear into you. So again, if you upload the passwords in any form up to GitHub, it is not a 0 out of the assignment, it is less than 0, negative points on the assignment. Okay, so all that said, now that we're hopefully most of us able to log in, let's start talking about what are the things that you can actually do with this library and working with Reddit. One of the big picture purposes of this assignment is to get you familiar with working with the documentation for complicated libraries. You did that a little bit with the matplotlib assignment already, and we're going to be doing that again with this pra library, which is even a little bit more complicated, or at least there's fewer examples of how to use it well. And so if you come over, or if you just visit this link right here inside of Firefox, where that takes us is this quick start guide over here. The vast majority of these popular libraries have quick start guides. If we scroll down a little bit, so common tasks, here you can see they're showing us how to log in using this bad method. Again, everybody does this bad method for just examples sake, not just with this library, but all of these social media API sort of libraries where you're connecting to some remote service. They all give you this bad example up front, and you never want to actually use this in your code. And then what I have copy and pasted into the prologin.py is just this set of lines right here.
So when we do end up uploading our, not our INI, but our actual work itself, it wouldn't run because we don't have the information. So how would that?
Correct. So your program would not run. If I wanted to run your program, then I would have to run it with my account. I would just put my prod.ini in there, and then it would magically run under my account instead of your account. Okay, so these 2 lines right here are what we have down here on these right here. And let's talk about what they're doing. So this Reddit variable right here, this Reddit variable is something that we created when we actually logged in up here. Oops, there we go. We created this Reddit variable, and now all the things that we do are going to be based off of this Reddit variable. A subreddit inside of Reddit is like a little small forum, and this is the name of that particular subreddit that we are connecting to. And then they have this list over here of how you want to sort the posts that have happened inside of this subreddit. I'm going to come back over here, and we're going to visit Reddit here for a little bit. So hopefully the URLs up here are somewhat visible to you, but up here I have reddit.com/r/learn-python. So a subreddit dedicated just for resources on learning Python over here. And this is what's called the new Reddit interface. There's an old Reddit interface, which is going to be much more convenient for working with this assignment. If you change the www up at the top to old.reddit.com, this will take you to this old Reddit interface down here. And so here you can see all of these different posts that have been made. In Reddit terminology, these are called submissions. And then at the top over here, these little tabs are different ways that you can organize how those submissions are being viewed. So right now, the hot tab is the default. It does some sort of algorithm of things that are highly upvoted and recently posted. If you only want things that are recently posted, you can click on the new, and then it's just ordered by time. If you only want things that are highly upvoted, then you can press the top over here. And I'll just real quick take us to the top all time of Learn Python things. And you can see that there's a whole bunch of these links about automate the boring stuff, the textbook that we've been using for this class. So it's a super popular thing in the Python world of learning how to use Python. In order to get access to this information sort of programmatically, then what's going on in this link right here is so reddit.subreddits. So instead of test, we'll try learn Python. And then over here, instead of hot, so this .hot, this corresponds to all the different tabs up here. So there was the hot tab. Yeah, let's just start with that one, hot. And then this submission down here, the thing that we're looping over when we do this is going to be all of these different submissions down here. So let's go ahead and save that down here, up arrow, rerun it. And so here are the different submissions that we see. So ask anything Monday, how can I remove one character from an entire string? Explain like I'm 5, come back over here. Ask anything Monday, how can I remove a character from a string? Explain like I'm 5 something. So we get all the same information, but now it's directly inside of Python for us. We could have used the requests library and done like the thing that we're doing with the eBay assignment of find what's the right CSS selector in order to be able to scrape out this information for us automatically. Turns out Reddit, one of the reasons they provide this API is because it's much more efficient on their end if bots are using their API rather than scraping things manually. So using the PRA library makes things both easier for Reddit and easier for us. Both this Reddit and this submission type are things that, yeah, contained inside the PRA library and so not built into Python at all. Any questions about any of that so far? Yes. Question is, how did I get from the old to the new interface of Reddit up here in the URL? Instead of having it be www.reddit.com, I changed that to old.reddit.com. So over here, again, we can see on the web page, if I click on the top button up here, we get a different set of submissions that people have posted down here. And so if we come back over here, change this word hot to the word top like that, save that down here, up arrow, rerun it, and we'll see that we get a different set of things returned down here. They correspond to the new web page. I'm 100% self-taught. I solve real world problems, the online course. 100% self-taught, solve real world problem, the online course. So again, the results from the PRA library should match exactly whatever you see on your web page up here. And as you're developing your bot, that'll be important for debugging to make sure that's like that your bot's doing the right thing. You'll always be able to come over to the Reddit web page, and this is like the ground truth information to see if you extracted the right things. Any questions so far? Yes.
So these are literally just printing out the who we have to use it. Is Python able to actually do those actions, or we have to import some sort of like Java or something?
So all of the rest of today, we're going to focus on just extracting information out of the web page. Next class period, we'll be actually pushing information to Reddit, and you'll be able to upvote, downvote, post replies, post submissions, all those sort of things directly from Python. Okay, let's see. So here, one of the questions that maybe you should be asking yourself is, how did I know that changing this word hot to the word top up here was going to do something different? How did I know that like this top thing was actually a function that I could call right here? And I'm gonna start talking about a couple of debugging sort of tricks, some tricks for navigating this this library that will be very useful for you while you're working. So down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun this code, but I'm going to run it in interactive mode so that I will have access to all of these variables. Again, in order to get into interactive mode, you run it just like you previously ran your command, but then you add a -i after the Python 3. We're passing the -i for interactive. We're passing that to Python 3. We're not passing it to our file. So that's why it comes after Python 3. I hit enter down here. All that stuff will still print out because all this code is still being ran. And then down here, I'm now in interactive Python, not in my terminal. And I know that because I have the 3 greater than arrows down here. If we've seen this type function before. The type function tells us what is the type of a particular variable. This Reddit variable is what I created with the PRA library, that everything's going to come off of this Reddit variable. And we can see that it's inside the PRA library because it starts with the PRA dot over here. If I want to see like, same with this submission, type submission like that, we can see that's a little bit more complicated, but still inside of this PRA library. Our original question though is how did I know that like this top thing was a function that I could call right here? And maybe there's more of these functions that I might want to have access to. Well, we can take the thing on the left, and let's copy that, copy you down here, paste that here. And we can similarly do the type of that. And that tells me what the type of this thing on the left is over here. The type of this is this big long thing ending in subreddits. If I want to find the official documentation of this subreddit type right here to find officially what are all the things listed that I can do to it, then you always take the last thing after the dot. So here, this subreddit, capital S. Come back over to our PRA documentation. Let's scroll up to this search box and I'll paste. Oh, that's not it. Just type that out, subreddit like that, and we'll see what it gets us. And here's a page with just all the different things that you can do on this subreddit type. And so here it has, these are getting all of the hot items from the all subreddits. Here we can see that, okay, if you put a plus between things, we can get things not just from Learn Python, but from the Reddit development subreddit as well. If I come down here, if I wanted not just Learn Python, then I could, they did Reddit dev like this. There's also just a regular Python subreddit like this, a lot of different programming subreddits, programming plus like this, and all the different subreddits that I wanted, I can add them together like that and get the submissions from all of them. Let's see. In order to find where that top function was actually located, then I'll do a search. So I just press Control F, type in .top, and now it shows me all the different times when .top is inside of here, and I can find other times when there's other similar functions that I might want to use. If we look through here, there's a lot of different things inside of this subreddit that we can have access to. Yeah, so again, at various points during this section of the class, you're going to have to be able to look up certain things in the documentation and figure out what to do with them in order to figure out how to get to the appropriate page for the particular variable that you're trying to look at. Here, we were originally starting with this .top function over here. I wanted to know, how did I know that that .top function was a thing? And so I took the thing to the left of it, to the thing to the left of the dot, copied that and pasted it into Python, finding the type of that whole thing. That type of that ended in subreddit, so it's a subreddit type. And then I pasted that into the search over here, and that gave me this page right here. Any questions so far?
Using the -I to get into interactive,
Mhm.
if you ever run into a situation where like it's just not loading or like your terminal's not outputting that, is there?
In order to get into interactive Python, you have to be at a particular, you have to be at the prompt like this. And so if you're not at a prompt, then typing this in with -I will do nothing. You have to be at a prompt. So at the same situation where not using the -I will run the code. And then up arrow and -I gets you into Python. So this is a way to get to the actual documentation, and we can see what are all the different things that we can do with one of these functions. It turns out that actually inside of Python itself, there is a function called dir, which will tell you just directly all the different attributes that a particular type has. So if I type this right down here, dir, again, passing in this big call over here, it outputs a big list of all the different things that are valid to be after the dot. Everything inside of this list everything inside of this list is a valid thing to put after a dot of this type right here. Everything inside of this list is a valid attribute of this particular statement right here. And so if we look through this, I can see here's the word top. That's one of these valid attributes, one of these valid functions that I can call. If I look through, here's the word hot. That's another one of these valid attributes that I can call. And so here's the word controversial. Let's try controversial. And I'll just do it up here, changing top to controversial like that. Save that, come down here, exit, rerun. And now we get different posts that are being posted over here. And if we went over back to the web page, found a tab that, I don't know, said controversial, that would show us what these are. Again, it's the dir function, tells us what are all the things that we can put to the right of a dot. So I found out that I could put controversial to the right of the dot by putting dir inside, by calling the dir function on it. Down here, let's see, I don't know. I maybe could have guessed that like controversial was a thing that I could have put over here because looking at Reddit, where we go. Here's the buttons at the top. One of these buttons is controversial. So I'll bet there's another one for Rising and another one for New, another one for Gilded, another one for Wiki. But maybe what's less obvious is what I can do with one of these submissions. So if I type dir submission, then this shows me all of the information that's valid about a submission up here. Here it has the title over here. But let's see, what other things might be interesting to have about a submission? If it is, let's see, so the subreddit that corresponds to that submission, if it's been stickied or not. In Reddit terms, the stickied posts are these green ones. So this one up here is going to be green. There's a score. Where's our score? Score right here. The score will tell me how many times it's been upvoted or not. So let's try actually using some of these things. Title, comma, score colon submission dot score, and then somewhere there should be, let's get the thing away, something that tells us who wrote the submission. Maybe the author of the submission. There we go. That looks like author. Author colon comma author like that, and save that. Come down here, up arrow, or exit out of interactive Python, up arrow, rerun this. Name author is not defined. I can't have author by itself. It needs to be submission.author. Come down here, exit out of interactive Python. Once again, rerun this. And now it's telling me, okay, here's the title of each of these submissions, here's the score of it, and here's the name of the person who posted the submission, the author of that submission. And so there's lots of that sort of information that we can gather, extract from each of these submissions. Again, I was using some sort of like an ad hoc method, using this dir function to get access to figure out what are some of these attributes. The things to the right of the dots are called attributes. What are these attributes that I might want to use? But if I could also do that a little bit more formally, finding the type of the submission. It has the type of submission over here. And now if I come back over to the documentation, search for submission. There we go. And we can find here's all the different attributes listed that I might want to use. So here's the author, an instance of Redditor that's not maybe super informative by itself, but the name right here should help us figure out that that's like the person who posted it. Where's our score? The number of upvotes for a submission is the score, the title of the submission, and so on. So lots of different things that we can pretty easily extract this way. Any questions about any of that?
In the for loop, could you repeat what the dot length does? So for this, it was dot controversial.
What this thing over here
Yeah,
does?
versus like when you use it in the actual print line.
So the question is that we have a bunch of things that are appearing after dots. We have like dot title, dot score, dot controversial over here. And the question is, what exactly is the difference between all of these things? Well, anytime we have one of these dots, it's specific only for the particular variable that appears to the left of it. So here, this submission variable down here, we said that this submission variable has this type down here, and it's intended to represent an individual submission that has been posted to Reddit. So an individual submission looks like, if we come over to Reddit here, each one of these things is an individual submission. And the submission type represents all the information that we might want to know about it, like the name of it, the author of it, and the score of it, and so on. And so in order, if I have somehow one of these submissions and I want to get that access to that information, then I do the dot, then whatever that information is. So if I want to get the title, it's submission.title, the score, submission.score. And we saw two ways of figuring out what are the valid things that you can put to the right of one of these dots. The way that you can do that directly inside of Python is you use the dir function, and then you pass the name of the variable to it, and it tells you all of the different things you can put to the right of a dot after submission. So here we have title is inside this list, so it is valid to do submission.title, and we get something like this. If we have a list, something like this, and I use the dir on that list, we'll get a different set of things. You'll see that title is not one of the valid things in this list. And so if I did xs.title, then we get this attribute error because the thing to the right of the dot doesn't exist inside of this list of the dir function. It doesn't exist in the list of things that you can do to it. So the dir is something that you can always use, even on like very, very poorly documented libraries, to figure out what is it that you can do with a particular variable. So that's the first way that we saw on how to figure out what to do with a variable. What attributes can you put to the right of the dot? You can use the dir function just to list those inside of Python. The other way that we saw to figure out how to figure out what to put to the right of a dot is we went into the prod documentation and we searched for the type of that variable. So over here, I said type of submission, and it tells me this big long thing down here. The very rightmost part over here, dot submission, tells me what I need to search for. And I searched for the word submission, came me to a web page with submission. And down here, there's a whole bunch of information about what I can do with one of these submissions. What is the information that I can extract from it? This right here is not a submission. Reddit is not a submission. It's one of those Reddit objects. This subreddit is a attribute of the Reddit object. What the subreddit does is, so let's just verify this, type of Reddit is this Reddit object down here. It has inside of it this subreddit function. If I do type of that, then it shows me what I can do with that. Or that it shows me it's the subreddit type, and we can search for what you can do with that. And one of the things that we saw that we can do is controversial or hot or new. And each one of these functions over here corresponded to a different tab up here. These tabs, they only make sense for a particular subreddit, like Learn Python, or another subreddit is the programming subreddits. And the programming subreddit also has these different tabs up here. In order to get one of these different subreddits, I just specify the name of that subreddit right here. So I can specify programming like this, and that will get me the programming subreddit. And this hot function right here gets me the hot things inside of the programming subreddit. Or I could get the top things, or I could get the controversial things if I wanted. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions at this point? Okay. So I have this URL down here, and I want us to take a look at this URL. This is a URL to a particular submission in Reddit. The subreddit is the funny Reddit. This is a particular submission in that subreddit, and we're going to look at what we can do with that particular submission. I'm going to come back over here to the in the documentation to this quick start guide. Like 90% of the things that you'll want to do you'll find in this quick start guide. And I'm just going to Control F for the word submission. So here we came down. This is the starting text that we had. This is the very first example of something you might want to do on this documentation page. And let's see, keep going a little bit more, finding a few more. So this is obtaining a submission instance from a subreddit. That's not what we're wanting to do right now. That's what we already did. This down here is a submission instance that we obtained from this subreddit instance. We looped over this subreddit, gathering all these submissions inside of it. And what we want is, you can also create submission instances in other ways too. So here we can create a submission just directly from a URL. And so we have a URL to a particular submission. Here we go, open it up. So this is the particular submission that we're looking at. I'm going to change it to the old version of Reddit since that's easier to find the information on it. And so it has this picture, and then there's a whole bunch of comments down here. And so I'm just going to copy and paste from the quick start guide over here, this thing right here, copy that, come back over to Python, paste that right below. And the URL that we'll be using is just this URL up here. And if I run this right now, we're not doing anything with this submission variable. So there's nothing new will print out, but I'll just go ahead and copy and paste this information up above down there, and we'll comment this one out so it doesn't affect our output. So now we'll get that submission and we'll print out the various information about it and see if that works. Control D, up arrow, rerun. And there we go. The title was buttons, the score, big number. This is the person who posted it. So we can get these submissions either directly from a URL or in other various ways like looping over a subreddit. But either way, whether we use this reddit.submission or the looping over reddit.subreddit, either way, we're getting the same type out, just a submission, and it has the same title, score, author, and so on, things that we can do with it. No matter how you get a variable of a certain type, once you have that variable, you can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't matter where it came from. It's one of these general principles of programming that we've been seeing in various ways so far. Okay, so what can we do with one of these submissions? Well, I want to figure out how to actually get access to the comments of these submissions. And there's two different methods that they show down here. That once you have a particular submission variable, there's two ways that you can get access to the comments. One is you can loop directly over the comments. This list right here function will convert it into a list. And the other is this submission.comments.list. Down here, I'm in interactive Python. I have this submission variable. If I do submission.comments, we can see this gives me something called a comment forest that contains all the comments associated with this submission up here. And their first recommendation was to pass this list function to it like this, list submission.comments. And that gives me this big list of things that look like comments to me because they have this comment type inside of them like that. This gives us all of the top level comments. So in Reddit terminology, a top level comment, here we go. This right here is a top level comment. This is not a top level comment. A top level comment is one that's replied to the original post. This one happens to be deleted. Here's another top level comment. This is not a top level comment. This is another top level comment, not a top level comment, and so on. And if I come down here, and so let's say list of comments at position 0, this gives me an individual comment. Somehow I need to figure out what can I do with an individual comment. I think it's faster for me to just use this dir function and take a look at it rather than trying to switch my screen, go back to Firefox and search for the comment type. And I'm looking for something that looks like the text inside of this comment. And I don't see a word text inside of here. I wonder what happens if I just convert this comment directly to a string. Nope, that doesn't work. Let's see. Author clear text. Body looks good. Good idea. Body. And so this first one was deleted, and that matches the text of this first one right here, deleted. This second one, up arrow, change that 0 to a 1, dot body, and now we get trusted download, fast download, so on, trusted download, fast download, so on. And you'll see that, again, they're using these \ins in here, represent the new lines, the spaces that you see over here. You'll also notice that some of these comments have special formatting inside of them, and all that special formatting is done inside of Markdown. Let's see if we can find a top level comment. Let's see. So that's the next top level comment, number 2, like that. I must have chosen correct. I must have chosen correct. And so on. And it's skipping over all of these nested comments down here. Let's say I want to actually get this comment down here, though. This comment right here. How do I get it? Well, I know that this was giving me the original comment, its parent comment. When we're talking about these comments, we talk about like parent and children, just like we do with HTML tags. This is the parent of this comment. This comment is the child of this comment. This comment right here, this deleted one, is the sibling of this comment right here. This one is the grandchild of this comment. In order, if I have a comment and I want to get all of the descendants of that comment, so here we go. List submission comments.1, that gives me a particular comment. How can I figure out what can I do with that comment? The dir function again. And somewhere in here, there's this variable replies. That looks like a likely thing to me. Replies. List has no replies, not with the dir. Here we go. That gives me access to another comment forest. So remember that submission.comments was a comment forest, and this replies is also a comment forest. So anything that I could do with my original comments, I can also do with the replies to a particular comment like this. And so I get that. Let's convert that into a list. Gives me a list of all the replies to that comment right here. It's saying there's only 2 replies. Let's go double check that over here. Here's the top level comment. It's saying there's 2 replies. So this reply right here and this reply right here. 2 replies to this Mr. Osama bin Lefty. And I wanted to find the actual text of this comment right here. And so we get the at position 0 like that, and then dot body gives me the text of that particular comment. And you can see that there is various markdown formatting inside of here, like the hashtags and the square brackets and so on, making the formatting look like that. Yeah, so this is I don't know. I did a lot of things here. If you didn't follow necessarily exactly each one of those steps, that's okay. The important thing to take away from this is that all this information inside of Reddit is accessible from Python now. And in order to figure out how to access that information, you always, so whatever variable you have, we have a submission variable right here. Our submission is this submission type. I know it's a submission type because I use this type function right here. And I can access the documentation for this type, figure out what are the things that I can do with it by going to the documentation and searching the thing that is the last word inside of this list, the attributes of all of the things over here. And if I did that for submission, we saw that you can get the comments variable, and then the type of submission.comments was a comment forest. I don't think I actually looked for comment forest over in the documentation, so let's go do that real quick. Up here, scroll to the top. Comment forest, and oh, there it is. And here's all the things that you can do with a comment forest, looping over it, accessing individual elements. We got to this by looking through the quick start section. And this right here, turning the list of, so submission.comments was the comment forest. We used the list function to convert it into a list. And then indexing those to get the whichever comment that we want. And then from that, we can get the replies. And then we can index that again, converting it into a list. And you can navigate throughout to figure out, get any comment that you want this way. Great.
If there is no like reply to, will it just give you an index?
Yeah, so eventually, like you're gonna find something that is a reply that has no children. So over here. This is an interesting one. This next one. So what I am looking at right now is the text of this right here. And if we try to look at the replies of that one, also a comment forest. But this has this more comments type inside of it. Yeah, if it didn't have any comments, it would be an empty list. There's more comments right here corresponds to this button right here that you'd have to click in order to actually visualize more comments. The last thing for us to real quickly see today is that there's this version of getting all the comments down here, submission.comments.list. Important to keep a distinction between this one and this one. This one gives you all of the top level comments only. This is only the top level comments. This one actually gives you all of the comments, like even not top level comments. So submission.comments.list gives you all of the comments. We can verify that with a length. It's going to be bigger than that. This is the top level comments only. This is all of the comments, and it's confusingly named that they both have, that this has like just list and it doesn't say like all comments or something. But this is going to be the thing that will be most useful for you in the assignments, this section. We'll see a lot more Reddit stuff on Wednesday, getting into actually posting things, manipulating things, upvoting, downvoting, but that will be it for today. If anybody has any more questions or like not able to connect to Reddit at all, then I can take a look at that after class.